So now we are 2 days out from the Packers' first game, a loss to Minnesota, which we already discussed on this channel. But I want to come in this video and sort of give my thoughts on where I think the Packers are currently at, sort of how I feel about the Packers right now with them. Right now, sitting at the bottom of the NFC North with the Detroit Lions. It's not a spot the Packers typically like to stay. It is only one game, but currently right now with the Bears beating the 49ers, which is crazy, and with the Packers, of course, losing to the Minnesota Vikings, we have NFC North, Vikings, Bears, and then Packers and Detroit Lions. So not a great way to start for Green Bay, but let's discuss sort of what's going on right now, what I think about the Packers as we head into this next week, week 2 of the NFL season. Before I get into that, I did drop a second podcast episode earlier today, an NFL podcast I have. You can check it out by clicking the link down below. I break down lots of the NFL from week 1. So go check that out if you would like to. I discuss the Bears winning, lots of other things as well. So, okay, the Packers heading into week 2, suffering a loss, just as we did last season. And the question is, are the Packers in trouble in any way? What do I think? What do I think about this Packers team right now? So I really thought we would beat the Vikings. I always think we'll win because I just have that hope always that we'll find a way to make it happen. And on Sunday, we did not find a way to make it happen. We were wondering, can the Packers get enough done without Lazard, with Devontae and MVS gone? Can these young receivers step up right away? And in game 1, they just weren't able to, which I think is something that you sort of could have expected. I was hoping for them to come out and dominate right away, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. And so in this game, the Packers put up 227 yards. It's not completely terrible. If you look at the rest of the NFL from week 1, the Packers ranked 16th in total offense, so total yards by the offense. Of course, the big play with Christian Watson dropping it, first play of the game. Things could change a little bit, but, players make mistakes, and I expect that as these receivers come into week 2, 3, 4, 5, they're going to slowly get things together because they are young. They just had their first game ever, and we're going to hope that they're going to take some steps forward as the next few weeks, come in and the Packers have their next few games. The thing is, though, with these young receivers here, we are thinking, okay, Sammy Watkins, maybe he can come in and do some damage. Maybe Randall Cobb can do some damage. And in this game versus the Minnesota Vikings, Sammy Watkins, 3 receptions, 18 yards. Randall Cobb, 2 receptions, 14 yards. So they were pretty quiet, didn't really do anything at all. Allen Lazard, of course, wasn't playing. So hopefully now coming into week 2 against the Bears, we'll see what happens with these Packers injuries. That is one of the biggest concerns right now is, Allen Lazard. Will he be healthy? Because I think he'll clearly help this Packers offense. I'm not sure how much he'll help this offense, but obviously having him will lead to at least some more talent on this offense, some more trusted talent for Aaron Rodgers. But one thing to point out from this game that is important, that Matt LaFleur also talked about in his press conference in the past couple of days, is the Packers need to run the ball more. If we take a look at them in this game, Aaron Jones, only 5 carries. 5 carries for 49 yards. Aaron Jones definitely needs to have the ball in his hands way more often than that. He averaged, 9 point something yards per carry for Aaron Jones, but only 5 carries overall. He needs the ball more. Matt LaFleur said they need to run the ball more as well, so he thinks that's a good idea. A.J. Dillon had 10 carries for 45 yards. And now when we look at this Packers offense, with Devontae gone, as we talked about constantly, with MVS gone, with Allen Lazard injured, the Packers running backs are the strong suit of this offense, besides Aaron Rodgers, of course, at quarterback. The Packers running back room is overall better than the Packers wide receiver room. So the fact that we have 2 top 5, top 10 running backs in the NFL at running back, the Packers may just need to rely on running the ball more often than they have in the past just because of the lack of experience at wide receiver. As I said, we'll hope that as time goes by, as the weeks go by, that these receivers will get better and be able to do more on offense. But until that point, let's just feed Aaron Jones. Let's feed A.J. Dillon. Let's give them the ball because they played well. A.J. Dillon averaged 4.5 yards per carry. I think that putting the ball in those guys' hands, not a bad idea. They averaged overall, the Packers offense on Sunday, averaged 6.2 yards per carry, which was the 5th best in yards per attempt around the NFL. So that was the area where the Packers really dominated against the Vikings. They just need to do it more often. Clearly, when you're down, you're losing in the second half. The Packers down, whatever the score was, down by a good margin. You can't just keep running the ball. I understand that. But I feel like now coming into Sunday against the Bears, and I'll put out probably an entire preview probably tomorrow or Thursday, I feel like the Packers are going to hand the ball off a lot more. We heard Matt LaFleur say in his press conference that they need to run the ball more, and I agree with this, especially with the young receivers here in Green Bay. And then one of the biggest things that partly has to do with injuries, partly has to do with just the play, is the Packers had lots of offensive line issues on Sunday, and we'll hope that they can get these things situated coming in against the Bears on Sunday Night Football. Of course, the Vikings had a very good pass rush. Za'Darius Smith, Danielle Hunter, two very good pass rushers. They showed it on Sunday against the Packers. And of course, with David Bakhtiari and Elgton Jenkins still out, obviously huge loss. And I do not know if they're going to be back on Sunday. I haven't heard anything yet. I'll be out tomorrow with, the injury update when the Packers' first injury report comes out. But we'll see if Bakhtiari is on track to play, if Elgton Jenkins is on track to play. I have no idea what's going to happen there. I wish I knew, but I have zero idea. And last week I was hoping that with them being questionable, it meant, okay, maybe one of them will play. But nope, neither of them played. And the Packers, I think, suffered a little bit because of that. Yosh Nijman played pretty well at left tackle, only allowed one pressure. But the right side of the Packers line just struggled lots of the game. Jake Hansen at right guard, who is new to that position here, starting this year for Green Bay with Royce Newman kicking out to right tackle. Jake Hansen was getting pushed around all game. He allowed 4 pressures, which was the most on this Packers offensive line. We have Royce Newman, who last year rookie right guard, this year now kicking to right tackle, allowed 3 pressures. So the right side of the line was a very big problem. Part of me wonders if the Packers should maybe try to put Newman back at guard and Zach Tom at right tackle, just because until Jenkins and Bakhtiari are healthy, we saw Zach Tom in the preseason play very well at right tackle. So if the issues continue on the right side, I feel like why not put Zach Tom there? The only thing is John Runyon Jr. did suffer concussion, left guard, and Zach Tom came to fill in for that position. So I don't know what's up with Runyon, so maybe Zach Tom will need to play left guard. Who knows? But the thing is, the Packers just could not protect Rodgers. He was getting hit constantly like a piñata throughout the entire game. Nothing much happening there for the offensive line. Obviously, too, when your receivers aren't maybe getting open quite as often, Rodgers had to hold the ball longer, which led to a fumble and interception. So overall offensive line issues. We'll see coming into week 2 if these injuries are able to heal quickly, hopefully, or if the Packers try to shift anything, or if they're just going to trust their line and say, you know what, we face off against a very solid Vikings front. We'll be fine coming against the Bears, which hopefully the Packers will get things situated. You would have to think they're looking at all these things even more than we as fans are, because their livelihood depends on them being successful when it comes to winning games. Then to the defensive side of the ball, coming into week 2, the Bears offense definitely much less potent than the Minnesota Vikings, with some of the top tier talent in the NFL, and Justin Jefferson, who just showed us how good he is. 184 yards. Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins playing really well, coming in next week versus Justin Fields. So the thing is, coming in this year, that we all believed this is a top 5, top 10 offense, or at least most of us. If you're a Packers fan, most of us sort of saw that with the additions here with Devondre Campbell. The whole talk was, look, we have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Week 1, they did not show that whatsoever. Lots of just miscommunications. Things weren't going well. And I know after the game, lots of people were wondering, like, why was Jair not on Justin Jefferson more often? Because in that game, whenever Jair did line up with Justin Jefferson, he never allowed a catch. I don't know how many times exactly Jair was on Jefferson. It wasn't a ton, but Jair didn't allow any receptions to Justin Jefferson. Most of them were on like Eric Stokes, Rasul Douglas, Darnell Savage, Adrian Amos. And so many people were saying, okay, Jair should have followed Justin Jefferson around the formation, play man, lock him up. He's one of the best corners in the NFL. Why don't you do that? Matt LaFleur was discussing that in his press conference the past day or so after the game. So the reporters were asking about sort of that situation, like, why wouldn't you put Jair over there more? And Matt LaFleur basically explained that because Joe Barry and the Packers defense want to run a lot of zone, just having a guy like Jair shadow him constantly wherever he goes, it just sort of messes with the rest of the guys on the defense, like who they're covering, what their sort of assignments are. And so you can't just do that when you're running that kind of zone defense. But clearly, whatever happened on Sunday did not work. So the Packers defense, they need to figure out what's going wrong there. I don't know the answer. I'm not a defensive coordinator. I think Joe Barry is much more suited to figure out these problems. Let's just hope that they can sort of figure out what went wrong there. This is probably one of the tougher teams to stop on defense, just because when you have a top-tier wide receiver talent like a Justin Jefferson, it's really hard to stop him. He's almost like Devontae Adams in the fact that even when teams know that this is the guy you must stop or you're probably going to lose if he beats you constantly, team, Devontae still dominates even when people know, like, we need to stop Devontae. He still dominates. Like, week 1, Devontae had like 10 receptions, 140 yards. So he's still balling out over there in Las Vegas. So I'm happy for him over there. Much love to Devontae. But the Packers just couldn't stop Justin Jefferson. I just hope the Packers can figure it out. Maybe it has to do with the fact that it is week 1. I know the Packers didn't play in the preseason, neither did the Vikings. But maybe the defense just needs a little bit of time to get, acclimated and get used to playing again. And hopefully that was part of the issue. Like, maybe the way that Joe Barry planned to run this defense in zone, maybe it works if the players execute it perfectly. I don't know. Maybe there was some issues there with Joe Barry's play calling. I don't completely know about that, but we'll see if as time goes by, if this defense, I think, can just sort of mesh better with having a game under them. And I feel like if you look around the rest of the NFL this entire first week, there were so many like things that you didn't expect to happen, or at least for me personally, like the Bears winning against the 49ers, the Bengals losing to the Steelers, the Broncos last night losing to the Seahawks and Geno Smith. Tons of crazy things, and part of me is wondering if it's like week 1, people are rusty, things just aren't going as they should. And I'm wondering if in the next few weeks, if the teams that are still really talented and we expect it to be great will just sort of get things figured out as the weeks come. So coming in now to week 2 against the Bears, we'll see if the Packers can fix lots of these issues. The Bears are, I think, a much less talented team than the Vikings, but still we can't take them lightly. They're coming off a win. They're 1-0. They're feeling good. The Bears fans are feeling good. I'm happy for Bears fans. Way to go. You got to win versus the 49ers, who are, I think, a very talented team over there. So the Packers need to come ready to play, because if we lose to the Bears on Sunday Night Football, we're gonna have some real issues. When you face off against a really talented Vikings team, it's easy to say, okay, it's just week 1, we'll get things figured out. But if we lose next week, I'll be a little more concerned. But I do think the Packers will win next game. We've seen in Matt LaFleur's history, after a loss, he comes in and he gets things figured out. He figures out what went wrong. He comes in. The Packers play very well. Last year, we lost week 1. We won 7 in a row. So let's hope that that's what happens this year, that we come out hot for the next few weeks. The Bears next week, we will have a tough test against the Buccaneers week 3. But that's pretty much how I feel right now about this Packers team overall. Feel free to comment down below. Check out my new podcast episode where I break down lots of the stuff from week 1, give my thoughts on tons of different teams, Joe Burrow, the Chargers, the Raiders, all those things. Will be linked in the description down below, also probably up here. I'll try to flip up the video so you can click it right now. It should be there right now if you want to go check it out and subscribe to that channel. Feel free. But that is all for this one. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you guys next time.